There's a place on Earth where time freezes, the silence is absolute, and reality itself seems to break the rules of nature. A place so extreme that humans don't belong there. It's so strange that even science is still struggling to explain everything that happens. This place is Antarctica. The coldest, most isolated, most hostile, and most mysterious continent on the planet. A territory where ice holds secrets millions of years old, creatures survive in impossible conditions, and inexplicable phenomena occur with frightening frequency. Nothing about Antarctica is normal. And when you discover what's really there, you realize that this place seems more like another planet than part of Earth. Imagine an environment where the temperature can reach minus 90 degrees Celsius and a cold so intense that the air hurts to breathe. Where skin freezes in minutes and equipment stops working as if technology itself had ceased to exist. But the cold is just the beginning. Antarctica is the driest desert in the world. Yes, a desert, even if it's covered in ice. Almost no rain. Almost no moisture. Just an endless white void stretching for millions of kilometers. In some regions, it hasn't rained for over 2 million years. Think about it. There are places there where not a single drop of water has fallen since before the existence of the human species. And yet, something survives. Microorganisms live trapped inside the ice. Ancient bacteria have remained frozen for hundreds of thousands of years, like biological time capsules. Some have been reactivated in the laboratory after lying dormant for entire eras. It's as if life there simply refuses to disappear. But Antarctica doesn't just challenge biology. She defies physics. The winds on the continent are the strongest on the planet. Gusts exceed 300 kilometers per hour, capable of knocking people down, destroying structures, and turning small ice crystals into razor-sharp blades. These winds are not normal. They originate from a phenomenon called katabatic winds, masses of extremely cold air that descend rapidly from the higher regions of the continent, accelerating like an invisible avalanche. The result is an environment that seems to be permanently at war with any form of existence. But what truly makes Antarctica frightening is not just its hostility. It's what's hidden beneath the ice. Most of the continent remains completely unknown. Beneath miles of solid ice lies a buried world, mountains, valleys, rivers, lakes, and entire ecosystems that have never seen the light of day. Imagine mountain ranges the size of the Alps completely buried. Imagine giant lakes isolated from the world for millions of years. And this is not theory. Scientists have discovered more than 400 underground lakes trapped beneath the Antarctic ice. Some have been isolated for so long that they may contain life forms completely different from anything we know. One of the most intriguing is a lake buried under almost 4 kilometers of ice, completely sealed off from the outside world. The pressure there is extreme, the darkness absolute, and the environment totally alien. Even so, signs indicate the presence of life. This raises a troubling question. If organisms can survive in such an impossible environment on Earth, what kind of life could exist on other frozen worlds in the universe? Antarctica functions as a natural laboratory for studying extraterrestrial life. But the continent holds even more disturbing mysteries. There's a phenomenon there that seems to defy all logic. The so-called bleeding of the ice. In certain parts of the continent, glaciers appear to bleed an intense red liquid that slowly trickles down their white surface. For years, explorers believed it to be some kind of supernatural phenomenon. The scientific explanation is equally unsettling. The liquid contains oxidized iron from an isolated ecosystem that has remained without oxygen for millions of years. Microorganisms live there using chemical reactions that do not depend on sunlight. Life thriving in complete darkness. Life that evolved separately from the rest of the planet. A life that seems to belong to another world. But the extreme environment of Antarctica doesn't just affect the surrounding nature, it alters the human experience itself. Explorers report something strange when they spend a lot of time on the continent. Silence. Not an ordinary silence, not a silence so profound that many say it is psychologically disturbing. No trees. No cities. No animals in most regions. Just wind and emptiness. Some researchers describe a feeling of losing touch with reality. Others report intense anxiety, paranoia, and strange sensory experiences after long periods of isolation. The environment not only challenges the body, it challenges the mind. And there's another, even more bizarre phenomenon. Under certain extreme cold conditions, sound behaves differently. Sound waves can travel much greater distances, creating auditory illusions. People report hearing voices, footsteps, or noises that are not there. The environment itself creates experiences that seem inexplicable. But perhaps the most frightening thing is what happens to the ice. Antarctica contains about 70% of all the fresh water on the planet. If all that ice were to melt, sea levels would rise tens of meters, completely redrawing the map of the Earth. And this ice is not static. It moves. Entire glaciers slide slowly, creaking, breaking, and releasing deep sounds that echo for miles, as if the continent were alive. Some ice floes are the size of countries. When they break apart, they release energy comparable to gigantic explosions. It's a constant reminder that Antarctica is not just a frozen place. It is an active and unpredictable force. But even with all this scientific knowledge, we still know surprisingly little about the continent. Most of it has never been directly explored. Satellites reveal structures hidden beneath the ice, strange formations, and geological patterns that raise more questions than answers. Each new discovery seems to make Antarctica even more mysterious. And the more science investigates, the more it realizes that that place does not follow the normal rules of our planet. A continent that preserves Earth's past, harbors impossible life forms, and hides an entire world beneath miles of ice. A place where nature operates at the absolute limits of possibility. And that's just the beginning of what's out there. But what makes this continent even more disturbing is not just what we see on the surface. It is what exists in the depths, hidden beneath miles of ice, extreme pressure, and eternal darkness. Beneath the frozen surface of the continent lies one of the most isolated environments on Earth, the Lake Vostok. A gigantic lake, buried under almost 4 kilometers of solid ice, completely sealed off from the outside world for approximately 15 million years. 15 million. This means that any life forms there evolved completely separately from the rest of the planet. No sunlight, without contact with the atmosphere, without influence from the modern world. A completely isolated ecosystem. To reach this lake, scientists had to drill through the ice for decades, facing impossible temperatures and extremely dangerous conditions. The fear was real. Opening this environment could release unknown organisms, or contaminate a system untouched since before human existence. When samples were finally collected, the results surprised the scientific world. Evidence has been found of microorganisms capable of surviving under extreme pressure, near freezing temperatures, and total absence of light. These organisms obtain energy not from the sun, but from chemical reactions between minerals and water. A life that shouldn't exist. This type of discovery has changed the way scientists think about life in the universe. If organisms can survive in such a hostile environment here, frozen worlds like ice-covered moons may also harbor life. But this lake is not unique. There are hundreds of other similar environments hidden beneath the continent, completely unknown ecosystems, sealed off for millions of years. And this raises a disturbing question. What else is trapped under the ice? Some recent discoveries have revealed something even more surprising. Scientists have identified vast river systems flowing beneath Antarctica, liquid water flowing silently in total darkness, shaping the base of the continent and altering the form of the ice above. This means that, even frozen, the region is in constant transformation. The continent breathes, the ice moves, the water flows, everything is alive in an invisible balance. But there is a place where this hidden world comes closer to the surface and reveals something almost impossible. the only active volcano on the continent. The Mount Erebus, a permanently erupting volcano in one of the coldest places on the planet. While the entire continent remains frozen, this volcano releases gases and maintains a constantly bubbling lava lake in its crater. A surreal contrast, fire and ice coexisting side by side. But the strangest thing isn't the eruption. They are crystals. Under certain conditions, gases released by the volcano freeze instantly in the polar air and fall as small crystalline structures, some containing traces of microscopic gold. Snow with particles of precious metal falling onto an icy continent. Nothing there follows normal patterns. And the underground heat is not present only in this volcano. Recent research indicates the existence of geothermal vents beneath the ice, areas where the Earth's heat melts the ice from below, creating hidden aquatic environments that can support complex life. These regions function like invisible islands of heat in a frozen ocean. And the more scientists explore, the more they discover that the continent is far more dynamic than previously thought. But Antarctica presents challenges not only to biology or geology. It distorts humanity's very perception of space and time. During the winter, the sun disappears completely for months of complete darkness. Without sunrise.no sunset.no time reference. Researchers living in scientific settings are experiencing completely disrupted sleep cycles. The brain loses its natural reference points, and many report a sensation of time either speeding up or slowing down extremely. The human mind was not made to exist in a world without day or night. And when summer arrives, the opposite happens. The sun never sets. The light remains constant for weeks, illuminating an endless white landscape where no defined shadows exist. The result is a profound sense of disorientation, like living in a space outside of reality. But perhaps one of the most mysterious phenomena is what happens in the sky itself. In polar regions, energetic particles from space interact with Earth's magnetic field, creating a mesmerizing spectacle. The lights of southern dawn. Giant curtains of luminous energy dancing in the sky in absolute silence. Shades of green, purple, and red rippling slowly above the ice. But beyond its beauty, this phenomenon reveals something unsettling. Antarctica is directly exposed to invisible cosmic forces. The continent acts as a window to interactions between Earth and deep space. It is one of the few places where it is possible to observe the direct influence of the universe on our planet. And there is yet another characteristic that makes the continent profoundly strange. The near-total absence of complex terrestrial life. No trees, no forests, no large land animals. The food chain there is extremely limited, concentrated mainly in coastal regions. Much of the interior is practically barren, an environment so hostile that it resembles Mars more than Earth. Therefore, space agencies use certain regions of the continent as testing grounds for interplanetary missions. Robots, equipment, and survival strategies are tested there because the conditions are as close as possible to those of another planet. Antarctica is not just an extreme place. She is a model of what exists beyond Earth. But perhaps the most unsettling aspect is the constant feeling of the unknown. Maps of the continent still have gaps. Radar-detected formations remain unexplained, structures beneath the ice defy clear scientific interpretation. It's a territory where every answer generates new questions. A frozen world that holds Earth's climatic history, preserves ancient organisms, and hides environments untouched for millions of years. And even with all the modern technology, we continue to explore only a fraction of what truly exists there. Antarctica is not just extreme. She is one of the last great mysteries of the planet. And what we've seen so far may only be the tip of the iceberg. Even after decades of scientific research, advanced technology, and international expeditions, Antarctica remains one of the least understood territories on Earth. And the more discoveries emerge, the clearer it becomes that this continent is not just extreme, it is profoundly unpredictable. One of the greatest examples of this is found in the very structure of ice. The enormous Ross Ice Shelf. It is one of the largest floating ice masses on the planet, hundreds of meters thick and comparable in size to entire countries. This gigantic ice shelf is not fixed, it constantly moves, expands, breaks apart, and rebuilds itself. But what's most impressive is what happens inside it. Researchers have discovered that ice produces sounds. Not ordinary noises, but deep vibrations, frequencies that propagate for kilometers. Sensors recorded the ice singing, sounds generated by the movement of the wind over the surface and by the internal stresses of the frozen structure. The entire continent produces a kind of natural music. A continuous, deep sound, almost imperceptible to the human ear, as if the ice itself were alive. This phenomenon reveals something unsettling. Antarctica is never truly still, she is always changing, breathing, transforming. And this transformation could affect the entire planet. The continent acts as a gigantic climate regulator for Earth. The ice reflects sunlight back into space, controls global ocean currents, and influences weather patterns across all continents. If something changes this balance, the impact spreads throughout the world. And signs of this change are already being observed. Large blocks of ice break off periodically, forming colossal icebergs that drift through the ocean. Some are hundreds of kilometers long, veritable mobile islands. When these ice masses break apart, they release energy equivalent to earthquakes, altering marine ecosystems and influencing global sea levels. Antarctica is not just a distant place. She is connected to the destiny of all human civilization. But there is an even more unique aspect to this continent. He doesn't belong to any country. Antarctica is governed by a single international agreement, the Antarctic Treaty System. This treaty establishes that the continent must be used exclusively for scientific and peaceful purposes. Military activities are prohibited, territorial exploration is limited, and global cooperation is mandatory. It is one of the few places on Earth dedicated entirely to science. Even so, dozens of countries maintain research bases scattered across the ice, studying climate, geology, extreme biology, and even signals coming from space. And this brings us to another striking fact. Antarctica is one of the best places on the planet to observe the universe. The extremely clean atmosphere, the near-total absence of pollution, and the dry air allow for an unparalleled view of the cosmos. Giant detectors installed beneath the ice capture particles coming from distant regions of the universe. Buried deep within the frozen layer are instruments designed to detect neutrinos, subatomic particles that travel across entire galaxies. This means that while scientists are studying the mysteries of Earth there, they are also investigating the mysteries of the universe itself. Antarctica connects the planet's past to the future of space exploration. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the continent is its ability to preserve time. Layers of ice accumulated over millions of years function as a historical archive of Earth. Bubbles of air trapped in the ice contain samples of the ancient atmosphere, records of periods before human existence. By drilling through deep ice, scientists are literally able to study the planet's past. Each layer tells a story: climate change, ancient volcanic eruptions, atmospheric transformations, and global events recorded like frozen pages in a gigantic book. Antarctica holds more than just mysteries. She holds the memory of the Earth. But even with all this knowledge, there is still something profoundly disconcerting about the continent. It remains essentially untouched. Much of its expanse has never been directly explored by humans. There are regions where no one has ever set foot. Areas mapped only by satellite. Environments isolated since before the rise of civilization. An entire world still hidden beneath the ice. And that creates a unique feeling. On a planet where almost everything has already been explored, where every corner seems familiar, Antarctica remains a real frontier, a territory where the unknown still dominates. A place where nature operates in its most extreme state. Where life defies impossible limits, where the ice guards hidden worlds, where silence alters the human mind, where planetary forces shape Earth's future. Nothing there is normal. Antarctica is not just the coldest continent on the planet. She is a powerful reminder that there are still gigantic mysteries waiting to be understood. A world where science and the unknown coexist side by side. And perhaps the most unsettling thing is realizing that, despite all the modern technology, we are still only beginning to understand what really exists out there. If you want to continue exploring the most extreme places on the planet, discover impossible natural phenomena, and learn about real mysteries that science is still trying to explain, subscribe to the channel and continue this journey through the most terrifying and fascinating secrets of the Earth.